Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. You've hit the spot. The place where the conversation is pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Put your thinking caps on, because the conversation starts now. Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. We are at the spot, the location, your favorite place, where the conversation is pointed and the guests are sharp and the responses are never dull. We are here with Helen Ena Glen from Australia. She's a transplant in Australia all the way from India. She's a beautiful woman that has an intriguing story to share with us about her upbringing. Losing her father to suicide, her mother being diagnosed with cancer at a very young age for her and her siblings, but also the great success that she's had as an entrepreneur. You know, she did great work in the furniture business, and she's been able to edit and pivot ever since. And now she's working with individuals like you and I. So let's welcome her to the show. How are you, Helen?
I'm very good, thank you. It's a nice bright morning here in Sydney today.
Is it? I know I've been to Sydney. It's a lot like San Diego, and it's pretty gloomy here in San Diego today, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's winter, but it's very pleasant.
Now it's moving into our summer, but you know, we're on opposite sides of the equator, so you know that's how it goes.
That's
Earth
right.
tones, I might say, are your color. You look beautiful in taupes and browns and beiges. I've seen you. That looks like your color. Do you like those colors?
I do like those colors, yes. Earthy, very earthy, grounded.
Exactly. I was thinking the same thing. So let's dial back and hear a little bit about your story, your journey, and your truth.
Yes. Well, when I was about 19, I decided I'd like to live in Australia, come to Australia, because my aunt and her family were leaving, and I was destined to go to England, but because the climate was so cold, my cousin said to me, "It's much better in Australia. You will have a better chance of um, enjoying a great lifestyle. So why don't you join us?" And so that's what happened. And on the 1st of June, um, I arrived in Australia just with a suitcase and with the idea that I was going to make this country, this great country, my adopted country, and I was going to do the best I can to establish myself, and that was my intention. And my intention was also to um, bring my family out to Australia. That's my parents and my brother and sister, because India, after the British left, was experiencing a lot of difficult times, and we wanted a better life. So that's why, even though my father had an excellent job, it just wasn't what I wanted for myself, for my future.
We have a lot of
And
people in India.
yeah, well, I'll tell you something. There was 400 million when I left India. That was 54 years ago. Today, there's well over 1 billion. In just that 50 years, because India has no borders. People just walk in from other countries on the border, from Bangladesh and Pakistan and um, Bhutan and Tibet and Nepal, and they just come into India for work, and the Indians don't send them away. So the population just exploded.
So, okay, living in that kind of environment with no borders,
Mm.
is it overwhelming? I know it can be a lot, but is it a more humane society? Is it a more
Yeah, they do have borders. All those countries do have borders, but I think it was increasingly easy for them to trek across.
Mm.
And the Indian government said to them, that's all right. You can live here, you can establish yourself, but you can form cottage industries where you will give yourself employment. You
Okay.
see, so yeah, that's how they survived. And there is well over 1 billion in that short 50 years I've been away.
Because in
So
America, we struggle with that. We
yeah,
we are a nation built upon immigrants and immigration. But now it just seems like, I don't know, we've lost control, or I really don't know what it is. We have an influx of not only people think that they're just coming from Mexico, but it's not Mexico. It's, we've got people now here from the Ukraine. We've got people here from Africa. We've got people from India. We've got people from the Philippines. We've got people from all over the world. And our Americans are getting pretty persnickety because they come here. Now, as you said, in India, they're able to uh, establish a cottage lifestyle. And for those of you that don't know what that is that, you're an independent, maybe grocer or tailor or
mm,
uh, housekeeper or nanny or whatever. You're building your own business inside of this. But here in the United States, when people come, they get a lot of quote unquote free benefits. Housing, where we have tons of people that are homeless. They get food stamps where they're able to purchase foods. They get medical. They get transportation. They get education. They get all of these benefits when they come, and they are asked to work, but not initially. Initially, they're set up, and Americans are
yeah.
getting pretty resentful for that. How is it in Australia? Are they pretty welcoming to people from other countries and settlers, or is there kind of a back and forth there as well?
There's exactly the same as in America. A lot of immigrants, or it depends. When the boat people were coming in, they were entitled to so much that the Australians themselves were not.
Right.
They're entitled to all their white goods and all sorts of stuff given to them free. But now that the borders are more stricter in allowing the boat people not to come, there's a great big, I think 135,000 people are coming in this year alone, legally. And we don't have enough housing ourselves for our own people. Um, and so it's a crisis. I don't know how, as other people say, we do not know how you're going to house them or how they're going to be housed themselves, because most of
And it's
them,
not just it's not just housing, it's sustainability.
yes,
Once they get in there, again, we have women here from Africa. They don't know how to drive. They've never driven
no,
a car before. They don't know the healthcare system. They have never had the kind of healthcare system that we have. It's, the world is so big and it's so vast. It seems like it should just be fair and equal for everything. But now it's between the haves and the have-nots, and it's very unfair. But then you look at the people that are working, like you and I, and building businesses. We get in
yes.
there in the trenches. We want to make the world a better place. And you did that. You became very successful in the furniture business. How did that come about?
Well, I actually met and married my first husband. I met him soon after I came out from India, and he was from Egypt. And we just struck up a friendship. And we had something in common, which was we both were here because we wanted a better life for our families as well. And so we traveled into the northwest of Australia, into mining towns together. We uh, were able to work and save so that when we came down to live in Perth, we bought a home, and then we sold that and came and lived in Sydney to start our family. And that gave us a head start. But it was a lot of forethought and hard work. Nothing comes from nothing. You have to plan your life. And so when we established ourselves in Sydney, my husband said to me, look, there's someone looking for for a person to have a home business. Are you interested in selling furniture from home? Because I had 3 little babies. Well, I was expecting the third anyway. And I said, yes, I'm not going to go out and work anymore. I really need to look after them myself. And so I started this home-based business of putting little ads in and selling the furniture and from the warehouse. And we had to get special permission in those days to actually sell from the warehouse. After it became too big for the home, so we moved to a warehouse. And we were also pioneers in getting trading for the weekend, because Australia was close to weekend trading. So we had to put application in to the council and get that permission. And it just boomed. People were very interested in wanting to come out on the weekend, shop around, find a bit of furniture that suited them, try it. And then if we needed to customize it for them, special colors or a special design, well, we would do that.
What type of furnishing was it? Was it like tables, chairs?
Yes, it was all domestic furniture and
Mm,
all really great quality. And the advertising I did in those days, we didn't have the internet.
right.
It was just newspaper ads, and I would put little ads, tiny little ads, all around Sydney. So I would get on the phone when they rang, and I would bring them in and say, come and have a look. I'm sure that this will meet your needs. And they would certainly come. And I think in customer service, it's wonderful to have that person there
Uh,
to talk to, instead of the recorded message.
Customer service here in the United States, I went to hell in a handbag. Number
Mm.
one, you can't get anybody on the phone.
Mm.
Nobody answers the phone anymore. They'll put you through the automated system, and you press the 0 because you want a person, then you're going to wait 20, 30 minutes
Yes.
because we have this thing now called quiet quitting and the great resignation. Nobody is wanting to go back to the brick and mortar anymore.
Yeah.
Just not in that mindset for business. And I like how you explained that grassroots approach. Brains, let me tell you, that is still very valuable to pick up the phone. It's unique now. I think people appreciate that. Let's have a coffee chat. Let's have a 15-minute introduction. Let me see where, I need to color in the white space. Let me see what you need, not so much of what I'm selling you, because people look at sales, Helen, and I'm sure that you agree to this, as something sleazy. Brains, it's not sleazy. Sales is psychology. Sales is filling the void. It is selling to value. It is supporting what someone needs. It's offering what you have and tailoring your service based upon what the customer needs. Wouldn't you agree, Helen?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's someone looking for your service.
That's right.
So if they're looking for your service, tell them what you've got. If it suits, they will certainly buy from you.
They'll buy from you, and they will tell people. And customer service is
Yes.
key. You need to be polite. You need to be, when you are the seller, you need to be a better listener than you are a talker, because you're going to talk yourself out of a great deal. You're over talking. You're not listening to what the customer needs. They may need a coffee table, and you're trying to sell them a bedroom set.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. The first thing I would ask them is, what are you looking for?
Hmm?
And I also had very successful high fashion boutiques. And I was well known in the Hills area for my boutiques. It was called Helen's Fifth Avenue.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
how was it back in the day, work-life balance with 3 children, running a business, and not just a business, but being an entrepreneur? Because again, I tell people all the time, you get excited about that word entrepreneur, but that is the hardest job that you can have.
yeah, it's 24 hours, literally.
That's right. That's right.
There was a stage when I would put everybody to bed, and I would start at 9 o'clock at night doing my accounts because I wanted a clear mind and a quiet space. And I would work right through till about 1 in the morning. And I knew that all my accounts were accurate because I would do that. And once a month, the accountant would come to my place of work. He would sit with me. He would go through everything. He would do the trial balance. And he would say, look, you've made so much profit this month, invested in whatever it was, in managed funds, or put it aside so that you can grow your real estate business later, or whatever it was. And so every month, that's what I did. But I was able to keep up and pay the accounts myself. I think that where I made the mistake later, when we actually scaled to turning over millions, I had to hand it over to professionals to run the business. And they said to me, you go, you're too busy, you do your thing, we'll manage it. And that was the biggest mistake I ever made, to hand over my business and my accounting and my everyday business to somebody else to run for me.
I was waiting for you to say that because
Yep.
brains, you have to keep your eye on the prize.
Yep.
You sign your own checks, you learn and you demand a statement and a balance every single month. You
Yes.
question the individuals. Don't think because they have a degree and they've done this for 20 years, that doesn't mean that they've done it great for 20 years. And that doesn't mean that they're doing it great for you. You are not their only client. You need to be able to ask intelligent questions. I mean, look at these celebrities. I work with celebrities in Hollywood all the time.
Mhm.
Their thing is to be the entertainment, be it acting, be it singing, be it dancing, be it poetry, whatever that is, but they are not in the entertainment business because they don't understand the advances that they're getting. They don't understand the royalty checks that they're not getting. They don't understand the negotiation of the contract. Be able to read a contract, and there's checks and balances. Believe and trust. I tell my CPA and my investment people all the time, you work for me.
Yeah.
And they have a right to answer that. So thank you so much for bringing that up, because people say, oh, well, I trust this person, I trust that person. We had a gentleman here named Bernie Madoff. People poured all of their money just trusting in everything he said, and it was a Ponzi scheme. So you
Yeah.
have to be careful, and sometimes you have to shift your stuff around. But if you don't know what you have, you can't shift. And that causes grief. There's
Mm.
all types of grief in our life. A loss of your job, a loss of relationship, loss of your pet, and a family member. You had experience with that, and you also have worked with grief recovery. Tell us a little bit about your experience and what happened.
My mother had cancer when I was 10 years old, and I was in boarding school, and it was very difficult because I used to go to sleep crying at night, wondering if I would see her again. And I'd go home during the holidays, and I remember seeing her scar, and it was raw, and it was really very sad. And I was quite traumatized. But being a 10-year-old, I had to live with that my mother could die of cancer at any time because that's what they told me. But she lived 22 years after that.
Hmm.
And so I was that little girl weeping unnecessarily because it's only God that has our lives in his care.
Amen. You know,
So,
so you
yes,
when you're a child and you're going through that, you don't know. I mean, this is so foreign to you. As we progress in our life, we're in our 20s and we're our 30s. We've seen life and death. We've seen the transition. But when you're a child, you don't know what to expect. So that can cause a lot of trauma, suppressed trauma as well.
yes. And I had an 8-year-old brother and a 2-year-old sister. And my mother actually lived to see that little sister grow up to have a baby and put her baby in her arms. And she actually lives and she is a psychologist now in LA.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow, that's beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. So now, please continue.
Thank you. My mother died here in Australia. She died in Perth. And a year later, my father committed suicide. And I had a baby soon after mom died, a baby boy. And he was 19 when he was tragically killed.
Mm,
And that really absolutely floored me. Losing a child at 19, it was something that was like a Mack truck had hit me. Because I was in the midst of parenting. At that time, I was a single mother. I had actually lost my business to recession, and I didn't have it set up. I didn't know about trusts and having it set up correctly. So we were on the poverty line. But I had my 3 children, and I opened a tiny furniture store. It was enough for us to survive on. But after my son died, it was like I had lost interest
mm.
in keeping myself afloat. Was difficult. I took a year off. I went down and ran on the beach on the Gold Coast. I lived there with my younger daughter. My older daughter was married by then. And we spent a year there so that I could recoup and recover. And it's very important that you give you give yourself time and space when you go through such a traumatic event and you are still needing to provide for those in your care. Like I had my younger daughter in my care at the time. I couldn't afford to not work. So I picked up a market research job in the evenings, and I would look after her, and we lived there for a year, and then we came back to Sydney, where I established my life again. I met my current husband, and we've been together for 23 years now, and very happy, thank goodness. He's a very kind and good man. He's Australian.
Oh, isn't that beautiful? That is beautiful that you even had the courage to start love again. People don't
Yeah.
want to do that again. They feel that, they've been betrayed or they're still stuck in that space of grief. But life goes on, Brains. Each of
Yes.
us has our own journey. We have uh, our own way to travel. I mean, there's no explanation, there's no rhyme, no reason. We're organic. We don't know when our expiration date is going to be. So you have to live life to its fullest. And you decide to do that with journals. Tell me about that.
Yes, after Justin died, well, actually, when he first passed, um, I would wake up in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and I would cry. And I grabbed a foolscap piece of paper, a sheet, a pad, and each night I would write him a letter about how I felt. And night after night, I did this, and I felt that I was speaking to him, and that through my prayers and through my sorrow, just expressing what it was, what he meant to me, and how I missed him. And I was looking at it the other day, and it was every day was the same story.
Oh,
I was just
wow.
telling him, from my heart, I missed him and I loved him. So I decided that I would put together a journal, which just there's one called the Women's Think and Grow Journal, because it's guided and people can use it to set their intention for the day, 5 intentions to see what they want to accomplish, and then at the end of the day, going through it and writing down what they have achieved. But even waking up in the middle of the night, they can fill that out and just make sure that they have got something tangible at the end of 30 days to say, this is how I felt, and now this is how far I've come. So there is a little series of journals which they can find on my website. It takes you straight to the Amazon site, and they can order the
Wonderful.
journal.
Well, I look forward to that because journaling is very therapeutic. And I want to
Yeah.
thank you so much, Helen, for being here on the edge with me and my brains and sharing your story and your wisdom and your business tips. I think all of this is so valuable, especially us being women of particular ages. Our life is not over. This is the second half. This is when we can enjoy the fruit of our labor. Please tell my brains how to get in contact with you.
Yes, it's helenglen.com, HELENGLEN.com. And you can click on journals or click on contact me. I do grief counseling now. I've done my accreditation, and I'm also a life coach. So I'll be very happy to speak to anybody. And I have a free strategy session. So just fill out the booking form and get in touch. Love to speak to you.
Brains, I'm going to put all of her contact information at the end of this interview, and we're going to run it over and over again. Thank you so much, Helen, for coming here. I look forward to seeing you in San Diego because you've got a daughter in Los Angeles, and we're only 2 hours away. Thank you so much, Brains. Take advantage of all of the great information, the grief recovery that she has, and make friends with Helen. She's a beautiful soul. Thank you again, and
Thank
welcome.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.